Hello everyone, thanks for dropping by. I'm doing a video early today because I've got a lot of jobs to do and I'll be running around here and there for most of the day, and I want to get this done before I go out, otherwise it could be mid-afternoon or late afternoon before I do it. Before I start, there was a waiting list for that Ferrari 295. That was too long. I'd have one of those, but not in that colour. Probably German silver or mid to dark grey with a red or maroon interior and black and carbon fibre. Anyway, enough of that. As you know, there's been a decline in birth rate all over the developing world, and this is starting to have severe implications right across the establishments that are predominantly run by women, and the main thing is education. Looking around, I found this. Now, as you know, more and more American women are going into American colleges, and American guys are saying, sod that, I'll go to trade school instead. But as you can see, this was done on 17th of October 2019 by the Harvard Business Review. Americans are having fewer kids. What will that mean for higher education? Now, in all these articles, there is no mention whatsoever of the MGTOW philosophy. Nothing at all. But dropping down, it says, since the Great Recession in 2008, the total fertility rate, a measure of lifetime fertility, has fallen by almost 20%. Tracing forward 18 years, we can anticipate a sizable decline in prospective college students beginning 2016. So you could say that is part of the MGTOW effect. Remember, MGTOW kicked in about 2000. 2008, it started to gain traction. The Great Recession coincided with that in 2008, and now we're seeing the result. And 2026 is just 4 years from now, 3-4 years from now. And remember, the JP Morgan said that by 2030, 6-7 years from now, 45% of women will be childless and single. So you can expect this total college thing to get much, much worse from now on. Now it just goes on about it. Yada, yada, yada. Not much to talk about it. I'll naturally put all the links below. Now that's at Harvard Business Review. Vox has also jumped on the bandwagon. This was done on November 21st, 2022. The incredible shrinking future of colleges. The population of US college-age Americans is about to crash. It will change higher education forever. Now, where's all this feminism about getting women into higher education? And then it goes on about it. There's nowhere to tell outside the ship is a sinking institution, or that the problem is about to get worse, not just here, but at colleges and universities nationwide. So it's a coast-to-coast American problem. There's a small number of elite colleges, they'll do all right, as always, but it just goes on about it, how the majority of colleges in America are about to have reality dropped on them. Early 2010s, enrollment began to drop. 2010, that is when MGTOW was really getting traction, and 2010 is just before fourth wave feminism kicked in. In 2019, the first full year before the pandemic, undergraduate employment was down by 16.6 million. The number of guys going to US colleges also probably dropped. Probably know that colleges are likely to hit a ceiling in terms of how many 18-year-olds they can coax into campus. The percentage of young adults with a high school diploma has reached 94%. I would like to see the figures for US trade schools, whether that's gone up or not. And it goes about the various states. Some of the parts of the country have already experienced an enrollment bust, mainly because of internal migration and people moving around in America like they've always done, and more yada yada yada. And it goes down, down, down Far too much to go in this one video. Perhaps the architect of the lockdown and the downward trend will resume, particularly with a new recession looming, or it might be something longer lasting. That might be something longer lasting is the MGTOW effect. Whoops. The I don't need no man, or the women are just too picky and they're only going for the top 10% who have got options, and consequently they're going to die childless alone with a house full of cats. But anyway, that's the colleges in America. As you can see, it's a shrinking college population. Now, it's not just colleges. Over here in Britain, we're having the same thing, but in schools. This is the Mail Online, and this was done on 29th of October 2019, about the same date as that. As you can see, falling birth rates could force primary schools to close as they struggled to fill 100,000 places over the next 3 years. The figures show primary school employment will fall by around 100,000 by 2022. Well, that's come and gone. I live within walking distance, 5 minutes at the most, from a school-run primary school, and I've not seen no drop in students there. So I can't give first-hand accounts of what's happening. And if you drop down to comments, there'll be no mention about MGTOW. I'll naturally put all these links below so you can look yourself. Mind you, what's happening in America and here in Britain is nothing compared with what's happening in the Far East. And South Korea, Business Insider. Now this was done on July 16, 2021. Photos show South Korea's plummeting birth rate has left hundreds of abandoned and crumbling schools throughout the country. Now this was Chungil Girls' School in Daejeon, South Korea, and it's had to close because it's run out of children. South Korea is one of the lowest birth rates in the world. The schools have been slowly emptying over the past 40 years. Some provinces breathe new life in empty schools, repossession them with galleries and community centres, but if you got an old people, then sooner or later the community centre will itself shut down. Now that's South Korea. Japan's in a similar situation. Now this was done on 7th of April 2023. As you can see, aging population in Japan leaves schools in empty classrooms. Number of students falls across Japan. A recent ceremony saw 2 graduates before the school closed. And that's the ceremony. After these 2 people graduate, the lad and the girl, that's it for the school. And then it explains about it. That's the high school. Just 2 students. Empty rooms. That must be a typical Japanese school room now. And Clarkson, twat. He's a quite knobhead, he is. Thinks he's more important than he actually is. Anyway, enough about him. And it just goes on. But Japan's in a worse state. Over here in Europe, same as in Italy. Now this is The Guardian, the leftish leaning newspaper. Now this was done, where's the date? There we go. 1st of May 2023, or about 3 months ago. It's the Italian birth rate's falling. Now this is about a village school in Asotia Valley. Now over here in Britain, we have in the rural areas the same thing. Once the village school closes, the village itself starts to die because you need children to maintain the population in the village. And it says for centuries the infant school at Champocha in that valley has been an integral part of the community. And then September last year the school fell silent and was forced to close after just 2 pupils enrolled. And the Democrats over in America Bloomberg says only immigrants can reverse America's baby bust. But you gotta subscribe to Bloomberg, so sod that. And still in America, this low infertility rate is starting to affect the state budgets. This was done, the Pew Research. This was done 5th of December 2022. So if you drop down to the highlights, the 43 states recorded their lowest general fertility rate, represents annual births per 1,000 women in the last 3 decades in 2020. Each state except for North Dakota experienced losses when the most recently published 2020 rates were compared to average over the decade ending 2010. And severity of declines of the path varies greatly. States are already feeling some effects of low fertility, such as lower school enrollment, but many of the most significant potential hits to tax revenues won't occur for decades. Some states are more vulnerable to potential budget pressures than others because of their tax structures. And then it goes into graphs. There's when MGTOW kicked in. MGTOW gained traction about there. Fourth wave feminism kicked in. And you can see from there the combined, the declining birth rate. If you put over, you can pick whichever state you happen to be in if you're an American, and it'll give you an idea. And if you drop down further, nearly all states sustain large fertility rate declines. Then you just pick whatever state you're in. Only North Dakota seems to have a positive birth rate. And school enrollment expected across most states. This is 2021 to 2030. Remember, 45% of women will be childless and single by 2030. So you just tick wherever state you happen to be living in. If WI, I don't know what state that is. Click for data. Wisconsin, minus 5.9%. Projected change. See state on table. No. Anyway, you can play around with that yourself. But it's a minus 4.4% across the whole of America. And it goes on about it. And the retirement age population growing rapidly. And the conclusion, and yada 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 with the links. Now, despite all this, the feminists are still complaining. Because I found this. This is a site called Convergence. Who's Afraid of the Lower Birth Rate? By, naturally, a woman, Jenny Brown. That's her. This was done on January 19th, 2021. How our spontaneous birth strike can give us leverage to win universal programs. So despite all the problems of a low birth rate, they still are not satisfied. For the first time since the dawn of capitalist system, most of humanity has experienced low birth replacement rates in some countries, such as Japan and Korea, like I've shown you there, are starting to see declining populations as a result. In others, the US immigration rather than native reproduction is responsible for population growth. In other words, America's southern borders. The Democrats have opened them wide, and Trump wanted to build a wall. But you know what happened to Trump? Trump 2024, hopefully he gets back in. This fundamental shift has implications for our organising, but it is also never discussed among activists. However, a big topic in corporation think tanks have been ramping up panic with headlines, and then it goes down, down, down. Capitalist systems over falling birth rates may explain why the last decade has been characterized by intense attacks on abortion, birth control, immigration, and social security. We can counter these attacks more effectively if we understand where they're coming from. And then it goes feminist yada yada yada. Down, 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 down. And then it goes, finally we should view attacks on reproductive rights as an attempt to take away our right to strike for better reproductive working conditions. In other words, the women are still not satisfied. Rather than looking at abortion as a personal private decision, defending it on that basis, we should expose how the power structure is using restrictions on abortion and birth control to extract our unpaid labour. In other words, no matter what's happening in here, here, and here, the feminists are still not satisfied, and they're going to protest and die on that hill. But wherever they can't explain or get away from the fact, guys are saying, sod them, I'm going to go my own way, and I'm going to better myself, and I don't need no woman. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but the state budgets are in decline across America. The Democrats only think importing lots of Latin Americans and Africans and that will solve America's problem. But Italy, with women are too picky. In Japan, Japanese women are too picky. Korean women have got too picky. British women, I notice, are getting too picky. And of course, you know, American women are too picky. And this is the result. I'll see if I can find some more on this for next week, but I think I'm way past the 10-minute mark now, so I'll naturally pull the links below. So you know the routine, people, like, dislike, etc. It's completely up to you. So until next Monday, that's it for this one. Bye-bye.